Oh, my bad.
Yo,
And welcome to another episode of More Conversations with the Average Black Man. I am Timotheus, and this is my lovely co-host, Morphine the God. Yes, 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 yes.
wonderful, wonderful. I'm happy that
Yes,
we
yes.
back at it again. We've been gone for almost 2 weeks, y'all been says.
Yeah. Happy Mother's Day to all the mothers out there. Yesterday was the day, So in the words
Yeah.
of Andre 3000, happy Mother's Day to all the mamas, baby
All the
mamas,
mamas,
baby,
mamas,
baby mamas, mamas, baby
and the
mamas, mamas,
mamas,
mamas.
mamas, mamas.
Right, right.
So, happy Mother's Day to you guys. Belated Mother's Day. Um,
Yeah.
Looking forward to the Father's Day. Clap that up. Like moving
Hold on,
along
hold on, hold
to
on.
the
Yeah, yeah,
Father's
yeah,
Day
yeah.
coming on up. But that's another live for another day. All right, today live is we getting in the nitty gritty of some politics, you guys.
Yes, yes,
Getting
yes.
into it. Getting
It is
into it.
political season with the election coming up, and that we gotta put our toes in the political pot. So today's topic is DEI the new affirmative action? DEI, for those that don't know, is diversity, equity, and inclusion. And I'm gonna roll some beautiful bean footage because it's a lot to explain. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I got this beautiful bean footage in here. It's gonna have the law, the whole get down. So
Let's get it.
let's roll. Wait, hold on, where my stuff at? Let's roll this beautiful bean footage. Tell me if I got sound.
It's beautiful.
Is DEI the new affirmative action?
Sound
The
is
Supreme
good.
Court overturned affirmative action in higher education on June 29, 2023, in the cases of Students for Fair Admissions Incorporated versus President and Fellows of Harvard College and Students for Fair Admissions Incorporated versus University of North Carolina. Here are the details of the Supreme Court's decision. The Supreme Court held that Harvard University and the University of North Carolina's admissions programs, which consider race at various stages, violate the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment. The court found that the university's interests in obtaining the educational benefits of a diverse student body were commendable goals but not sufficiently coherent to satisfy the strict scrutiny standard. The court concluded that the university's use of race was not narrowly tailored to achieve their goals and that the admissions programs lacked a logical endpoint. The court held that the admissions programs violated the Equal Protection Clause because they lack sufficiently focused and measurable objectives warranting the use of race, unavoidably employ race in a negative manner, involve racial stereotyping, and lack meaningful endpoints. With the overturning of affirmative action laws, has DEI now become its replacement? DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion, and affirmative action share similar goals, but they are not identical. However, with changes in the law and shifting societal priorities, DEI has become a more encompassing and inclusive concept that builds upon the foundation of affirmative action. Here's why DEI can be seen as an evolution or an expansion of affirmative action. 1. Broader focus, DEI encompasses a wider range of identities, LGBTQ+, disability, etc., and addresses systemic inequalities beyond race and gender. 2. Inclusive culture, DEI emphasizes creating an inclusive culture, whereas affirmative action focused on representation and numerical goals. 3. Intersectionality, DEI considers the intersections of identities and experiences, whereas affirmative action often focused on individual identity groups. 4. Proactive approach, DEI encourages proactive strategies to address inequities, whereas affirmative action was often reactive, responding to legal requirements. 5. Expanded scope, DEI applies to various areas, including education, employment, healthcare, and criminal justice, whereas affirmative action was primarily focused on education and employment. With legal changes and shifting societal priorities, DEI has become a more comprehensive and inclusive concept that builds upon the foundation of affirmative action. While affirmative action was a crucial step towards addressing historical discrimination, DEI aims to create a more equitable and inclusive society for all individuals, regardless of their identity or background. Diversity, equity, and inclusion, DEI, is not legally mandatory, but there are several executive orders and laws that encourage DEI practices in the workplace. Here are some examples. Executive Order 13,985, signed on January 20, 2021. This order established that advancing racial equity, civil rights, racial justice and equal opportunity is the responsibility of the whole of the government. Executive Order 13,583, signed on August 18, 2011. This order established a coordinated government-wide initiative to promote diversity and inclusion in the federal workforce. The Federal Merit System. This system includes the principle that the federal government's recruitment policy should endeavor to achieve a workforce from all segments of society. Title VII of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. This act prohibits employment discrimination based on race, color, religion, sex, or national origin. On the next episode of More Conversations with the Average Black Man, we will discuss this topic. www.youtube.com/@moreaverageblackman.
Well, that was a mouthful. It was definitely a mouthful. Welcome, Maurice, to the stage. Lovely to have you again.
All right. Welcome. Hold on, I thought I was on the screen. All righty.
So this is what we want to get into. Are we going to start with affirmative action, and then we're going to dive into the DEI of it all? You know.
I mean, it's y'all show. Y'all figure it out.
Yeah, I think that's what we should start with. I think we should start with affirmative action first, and then dive deep into the DEA of it all.
DEI. Oh, the DNA. Oh, okay. I was like, wait, what?
DEI.
The DNA of DEI. Gotcha.
The DNA of DEI. Yes, there we go.
All right. Okay.
I like that.
So basically, we all are familiar with affirmative action. It's been around for quite a while, and it just recently was overturned in the Supreme Court. And as mentioned in the video, there are a number of executive orders put in place that they claim are just there to encourage. I didn't know you could pass an affirmative action to encourage something. I kind of thought that made it mandatory, but sure.
Hey, you learn new things every day, you learn new things every day.
But yeah, it encompasses a broader range, whereas affirmative action were just, I won't even say people of color, it was African Americans, Black people, and women. Whereas DEI is, and this is just my opinion and my stance, I wanted to stay neutral, but I don't think I can. I may still try, but to me, it's just affirmative action on steroids, to where it's just ridiculous in my opinion, only because I've gone down the rabbit hole and done my research for this episode, to where DEI is so far everywhere that you can't have an original idea without being policed. Like if you want to have a TV show, like I just recently shared something on Facebook that said I asked AI to make Friends.
To go with this.
Right. Said I just someone asked to make the cast of Friends all Black. You know what I mean? Well, if like Friends, the TV show, were like a group of friends that lived in a certain area of Boston during a certain time period. If that was to happen today, DEI would say one has to be Black, one has to be Asian, one has to be Hindu, one has to be American Indian, one, like this entire friend group will be so diverse that it isn't realistic at all.
You know what I mean? Like one would have to be gay, one would be trans. Like they just gotta hit all the stereotypes, like that. I'm hitting all of them at one time. One monopoly.
The word is intersectionalities. Is what will be. That's what they will use.
Yeah, intersectionality. Yeah, that's another buzzword. That's a buzzword. Mama named him Clay. I'm gonna call him Clay. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna call a spade a spade. But what do you think, Maurice? You think DEI is affirmative action on steroids, like I do myself?
No, I mean it's absolutely absurd. I think the switch is from affirmative action was based off of ratios and numbers, right? Whereas DEI is about trying to legislate culture, which is just very dangerous territory to even be getting involved in, because culture influences legislation. There's no way you can legislate culture. Like culture needs to influence legislation. So this is getting to the point of trying to get people to think a certain way. Now, we're not we're not talking about behaving a certain way anymore. We're trying to get people to think a certain way. And I don't know, doesn't really scream freedom to me.
So are we arguing that diversity is it's not realistic being represented the way that they're trying to represent it in modern day life right now? Because it's
Well,
diversity that presents of different groups of individuals with unique characteristics, expressing and expressing this experiencing different backgrounds. So they want equality in that diversity.
well, I think in the way they present it, they intentionally obfuscate um, the actual, like, what the results they're looking for. They want it to look diverse. They don't want it to actually be diverse. Because if you want true diversity, you're gonna have to break down the fact that skin color, um, sexual orientation, all the protected areas, though they do inform your perspective, they're not that heavy in informing your perspective. And for them to actually, because the whole point of diversity is not so much what that definition is. Real diversity is diverse opinions and thoughts, which is not necessarily informed by your group identity, whatever that may be. So,
True, but the point was to eliminate the unlawful discrimination amongst these different systems, whether it was acting, whether it was getting in school, whether it was career wise. That was the point, was to eliminate that with diversity.
It was meant to diversify diversity, if that makes sense.
Diversify diversity.
Right.
Hey, bruh.
Because again, remember, affirmative action was primarily focused on black people, African Americans, whatever you want to. It was primarily focused on that and women. So at one point in time, the career space, I won't say the workspace, but the corporate career space was dominated by white men. And affirmative action came in, especially with schools and things like that, colleges, like it mentioned in the video, where they wanted to diversify and give opportunities to people that had historically been disenfranchised or uh, what's the word? You know what I'm
mar-
trying to say.
marginalized.
Marginalized. Thank you.
I got you.
Mhm.
I've been
Uh, and
studying language for a while now.
right. So they took these disenfranchised and marginalized group, and then they interject, and they gave them opportunities that they should have had in the first place, which was a lot of it got pushed back because there were individuals saying, "Well, I don't want I don't want a fireman, a guy that's hired to save my life, only be hired because he's black and he has where you skipped over a person that was actually qualified, a white guy, just because and came the term affirmative action hire, you know what
Yeah.
I mean? And
Now it's
then
diversity hire, right? They
now
changed.
it's
Yeah.
now it's a diversity hire. But the thing about it is what happened is that this is what I've seen through my studies. Feel free to interject and add or take away. But what I've seen is that it created a space where black women in particular excelled.
Yes.
And the reason why black women in particular excelled under affirmative action is because they ticked off not one, but two boxes on this list of things you have to have because
Well,
of this law.
just
So it says,
add lesbian to that, and they'll get three, and they'll
right. Well, now it's everything. Now it's race,
yeah.
it's sexual orientation, it's nationality, not just race, but nationality, culture, the whole nine. Like
Gender.
what
Mhm.
Maury said. eloquently described it. It's they're trying to legislate culture. They're trying to say this is what this is the culture we're trying to create, and we're going to mandate that you adhere to what we want to create, as opposed to letting the culture itself evolve on its own.
No,
Right.
I mean, I got no objections with anything you just said. I think it was accurate. I mean, it's gonna make for a boring stream if everybody agrees here. You know?
Right. I was trying to. I'm in a left versus right group on Facebook. I was trying to get some of them to come up and
Hold ground.
And give their
yeah, but
views on,
right, some
but
of
that's
the more far
to
left.
to have that for having these conversations from in a group where they could kind of mask themselves then to actually coming on live where you are kind of documenting everything that you're saying from voice, or even if you're not using your image, mugs can you definitely could tell that's your voice, so they might not want to be up here and
Yeah.
out there like that.
I mean, I think the intent is in the right spot. Let me I can defend for a little bit here. I think the intent is in the right spot. They're trying to create a world that doesn't. It's wild because they're trying to create a world by using the same tools that was used against the oppressed to try to fix it. But the argument is, well, then you're just oppressing the oppressors now. You're not equating the level ground. So I think the intent is, use the club on my head, I'm gonna use a club on your head. Because that's fair and that's just, and it's very typical, very simplistic justice, right? Eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth. But you can't say something like I just said and claim a moral high ground at the same time. All you can claim is equivalency. And if we're going to call them racist, then I have to call you racist. And that's a problem. No. I'm not racist. I'm anti-racist, right? You've heard this, right? Yeah. If you look at the actual methods and
From a couple of shows we had a while ago, yeah. So that was a big uproar. So I get what you're saying.
Yeah. So if you look at the tools and the methodology that they're using, you realize it's the same exact tools that were used by white supremacists and people that were in power at that point in time before kind of civil rights and all this other stuff kind of took place. I'm sorry, I was supposed to defend it and I veered off. My bad.
You were supposed to be helping the cause.
No, it's just you have a strong
Yeah.
sense of what you believe, and that's okay. But to play devil's advocate like you were attempting to do, I get it. I get it from the standpoint of the people on the outside see it as the oppressor trying to oppress them.
Yeah.
Right now you're the oppressor trying to oppress the oppressor. I get that, but I think would stand more with affirmative action rather than DEI.
Well,
because DEI isn't necessarily, in my opinion, oppressed groups. It's more newer fringe groups that I hate to use the word fringe, but that's what came out naturally. but but it's like a more recent movement that's trying to put themselves at the forefront. You know what I mean?
Like, right.
Yeah, because the issue is, affirmative action was strictly, I mean, for the most part, I mean, yeah, you can add women into that, but it was really, really about race. It was what affirmative action was, to make sure that people weren't being discriminated against based off of race, right? It was a pretty good attempt, right? Let's give the credit for what it was. Certain people that probably wouldn't have had a chance without affirmative action, but in the same sense, I don't, I'm glad it went away because I don't think it's necessary anymore. Like it was a stepping stool, but the black people as a community, I think has grown a little bit taller, right? And they don't need the stepping stool anymore. So um, it's just a matter of finding other ways to figure out how to reach up and grab what it is that you need to grab. If that works for a metaphor. But yeah, in the whole point of DEI, I think it's honestly good if we actually break down each aspect of DEI, like the diversity, the equity, the inclusion. What is it that they're intending to do, and what is it that they're failing to do by doing it the way they're doing it?
Well, as I mentioned earlier, when I was studying this stuff for the show, it's like it's so much that I don't. It's I was like I could go through I'm skimming through the notes now, and it's just like okay, most of what's in the notes we've already covered, but
Okay.
I the same way some people felt like affirmative action was forcing people to have to deal with something. I feel like this is the same way. It's to the point to where it's impeding in television, video games. That's the rabbit hole I went down. Like
Yeah.
people are having issues with video game characters. This is really a thing. Like a video game. Like really that. like why are the aliens in this video game all male and female? That doesn't. There is no representation for some of the aliens that may be non-binary in this video game that was made up by a person that had a clear frame of what they wanted these aliens to be, but you want to interject your politics into their imagination. That's where I think a lot of the BS comes in.
So I mean, you have to understand a lot of these people that support DEI policies are people that believe in social constructionism. So
Okay.
yeah, so they don't really adhere to an objective truth or an objective reality or so like concepts like male and female. Well, that's the social construction. Everything that they you can perceive as some level of social construction that we've been taught to believe, right? Humans are a blank slate,
Mm-hmm.
born in here. We're born into this world completely blank, and then we're just informed through culture and society and legislation. So if that's how you feel, then you start to determine or you start to impose a feeling or a legislation or an idea onto the society now, right? You determine what's moral now versus accepting that there's any type of more objective truth at all. So when you hear about them going out and doing all this stuff and trying to make things, obliterate full, what's the word I'm looking for? Full categories for whatever it is, then I mean, it just makes sense if you come from the stance of social constructionism, because they're just trying to construct the social arena to one degree or another.
I think this is such a important conversation for those of color, for those that are Latino and brown people. That is very important conversation because it affects us ineffectively. Um, it's supposed to be for our inclusion, but for the most part, it's for the other people to use their inclusion against us. So I will argue that sentiment of affirmative action right there. But when it comes down to DEA, that is a variant of that as well. It's just
DEI.
it's
Yeah.
you got DEA.
No, you're saying
DEI. Yeah, that's
yeah.
what you got up here. So I'm trying to read and sorry for me doing the geek thing. Like, yeah, I'm trying to read and talk at the same time. Sorry, you guys. Um, I think it is an extreme. It's not extreme, but it's another facet of that as well, with other inclusions on with that, because we got the sexual identities and things of that nature on tagging along with that. So
Yeah,
yeah,
I think the other aspect that kind of pushes this whole thing along is that the problem with being the savior for uh, the underserved and the marginalized is once you solve that problem, you no longer have a purpose,
yeah,
right? So now the I guess the danger area where people tend to lean towards is you start actually making people disabled. It's almost, I almost feel like it's an extension of Munchausen by proxy. Like, I don't know if you guys are familiar with
yeah,
Munchausen so Munchausen by proxy, where it's like, in order for me to be a morally upright, good person, I need to be taking care of somebody that's less able. So I will consistently keep somebody in this position where they're less able. Hence why you have, like, it's the wildest thing when you see it, where you see white people and black.
White guilt. That's the term.
Well, no, it's not just that, right? Like, you'll see white people talking to a white person talking to a black person, telling the black person you're oppressed, and the black person is saying I'm not. That's just the most wildest exchange you ever see. And the reason that exchange is happening is that you have this white person playing this role of savior, and they need you to be oppressed in order for them to fulfill the role that, or the delusion that's in their head.
All right.
I have more of the other way conversation around when we're talking about, like, for example, is this post that was out, and a young lady had 150 or 40 scholarships from scoring the highest of the year in her class. She got all these scholarships, and it was basically saying, I wonder, is that affirmative action? And it was because she was black. So it just pits. I don't know. I just didn't like how that sound. Like, why can't she get that because that's what she earned? Like, why
Well,
did race play a part in any of that? Like,
well, when you create uneven ground intentionally, right? You when you put it in DEI policies, it literally create, like, it's funny whenever they create those, you've seen those cartoons where they put the boxes on under the people that are trying to see the baseball game or whatever, that have been, like, kind of floating around.
yeah,
Literally, you're saying we're going to make the ground uneven. So you push out this idea that we're going to make the ground
right,
uneven, right? And then when someone gets this,
right,
the person where she ticks all the boxes of where all the box are going, and then you see that same person excelling beyond anybody else. Oh, okay. Well, it's because she has a bunch of boxes under them. Time to get rid of the boxes, right?
right. But it's not looked at that way. If a Caucasian guy or Asian woman or male got
They have no
140 scholarships from top elite universities and those in between, it would have been no different. Now, say in the same breath, if she got all scholarships to HBUs, they still wouldn't have blinked the eye. They still wouldn't have blinked the eye. But because she had 140 scholarships, that was above everybody, and her being African American was like, okay, I wonder if this is the new DEI or the new affirmative action that's
that's
going on, which is
I mean, that's what
that's
happens when
crazy.
that's
140
what
scholarships.
yeah, I mean, that's what happens when you're, because she could have easily actually earned those 140 scholarships. I don't know, right? But that's the
Like,
problem.
who knows, right?
We don't
Right.
know because the ground is uneven, right? The ground was intentionally set up
Right.
uneven. So we don't know whether or not she actually earned them or not, which laughs in the face of meritocracy, right? We want something meritocratic. We want to say that the best person earned the best things. But if you can't say that because the ground is uneven, then people are going to have their doubts, and they're going to call cheating. It's a natural inclination inside people.
Mm-hmm. For me, it's a double-edged sword. It's truly a double-edged sword. If you make the academic requirements
But
and
who
you
knows?
get in these schools that has no diversity, you're looked at this, with any, I mean, not the same negative light, but with a negative light.
Which honestly, I'm gonna say it's earned though, not by you, but because of the policies that were put in place, right? Like the best way to do this is to create a situation where there's no boxes, no boxes, and then we figure out who's actually struggling, and actually look at that objectively, who's struggling, and then see whether or not we put an implementation in that's going to actually support the struggling people, whoever they are. I don't care what color. We don't care what color. We don't care what race. We don't care what gender. If this person's actually, because right now I can tell you, when it comes to just what general academic success, boys are struggling. Black males are severely struggling, severely struggling. But nobody wants to talk about that. Nobody wants to actually address that issue and the significance. Why is it that black boys are suffering, but white girls are excelling? Well, because you have to say at that point in time, oh, it's not race. And they don't want to say that. It goes against the very
Can I bring
thing
up
that,
this one situation? There's one situation that you brought this up. I'm happy that you brought this up. I'm not saying that this is all black men, young men that's in college or in the universities, but athletically, if black boys are on social media TikToks bragging about the white women doing their homework, helping them academically, them basically not having to go as hard as other people because the women around them help them get along, get a further ahead than them actually applying themselves. And I'm not talking about that's every guy. It's not the medical major. That's not the science major. That's not the robotics major. That's not the engineering major. Like that's not those. But when it comes down to like things that black people see getting easy in college, which is probably, I hate to say this, is probably the athletic part of it all. Where you got black boys, basically bragging. I ain't do my homework, my girl did.
Mhm.
So
I missed what that had to
if
do with DEI, but
No, I'm missing the question.
I'm saying that if some, not all, but if some black guys think that when it comes down to education, they could just skate past, is just because their goal is not really obtaining that education, is just to use it as a stepping stone. For another example, I'll go for the guy that works, the blue collar guy versus the guy that actually did go to school. The blue collar guy is always going to come at the guy that went to college, talking about some is dead, all this other good shit that we hear in Kevin Samuels groups. So when it comes down to education, I just don't think it's viable for a black man. That's all I got to say.
Viable? Explain
it's
that.
absolutely I think what she's saying is, the trope of the education system wasn't necessarily designed with black males in mind, which is why they have the whole prison to pipe, the schoolyard to prison pipeline, that type of stuff like that,
As opposed to black female.
as
So,
opposed to female.
so they made it for black females, but for not for black is the argument.
I believe that's what she's saying. She can clarify what she done chewing.
I made it
she didn't hit
female
mute while-
oriented.
She didn't hit
sorry.
mute while she was chewing.
I told y'all I was hungry. Dang it. But that's my belief. when it comes down to the systematic with black men, it's just not. They don't push it on black men as much as they push it on black women.
Who's they?
Your teachers, your counselors, they push they push football, basketball, whatever the hell the athletic in the school more so than academics.
Now, I can attest to that to some degree from my own experience growing up as a kid when I did live in Los Angeles, that it was told to us in school that X amount of X excuse me, X% of black men would be dead or in jail by the time they're this age. And that was instilled to it. So it's like, hey, pick up your chance of getting out of the hood is like, hey, pick up a ball, you might go pro or you know what I mean? It was kind of a thing, like, but again, that was a different time, a different era.
Yeah, but those kids of those era are adults now, and then
Right. But then how that leans into the whole conversation is like what was it? They had Pat. I think they got rid of this too, where they were like they were like skewing the SAT scores. Like if you were black and you had an SAT score of this, since you were black and you grew up in the hood, that was the equivalent of a better score. And they were allowing you to go to
Right.
to uh,
you get
colleges that
you
you
get
weren't ready for. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
you get hood points because for being in the hood and growing up in the hood, you get like an extra 100 points on the SATs or something like that.
Yeah, it was something like that. I don't remember exactly. I didn't look that up because I didn't think that was going to come up right
Well,
now.
well
But
even in the hood, if you're the straight A student, of course you're the elite student because everybody is below mediocre. you know, not saying that's how all hood schools are, but 9 times out of 10, if a kid got to worry about how they're going to eat and all the other good survival skills, they're not going to be really worried about their academics, are they?
Well, I
They stuck
guess
in survival mode.
the whole point of me bringing up the boys versus
Where's the
girls.
music coming from?
I put that in the background because we kind of, it was kind of, you know what I mean? Is it too loud?
Over here doing a whole
No,
other
no,
thing.
no. I just heard it. I was like, what? Go ahead, Maurice. I'm sorry. It just came out of nowhere. I just wasn't ready. Like,
Yeah, no. The reason I bring up the whole boys versus girls things is to point out that when it comes to the unoppressed side of whatever DEI is trying to promote, if that side is suffering, God forbid if a white man is suffering in this country, they will be utterly and completely ignored. Right? When it comes to men, right? Ignored. If you have an issue, if you're a straight person, have an issue about your straight issues, ignored. It's not the problem, right? So this is that was my whole point in doing it because then you actually have to get into nuances of the other contributing factors and whether or not there's appropriate correlation on the actual metric that you're trying to increase. If you're trying to increase the black community education standard and you have a disagreement between men and women with the same implementation that you're doing on there, then clearly your implementation is wrong and race is not the issue. You have to come to that conclusion. But if you don't want to look at it, then you don't want to look at it.
I think a lot of things plays in these conversations, especially when we're talking about the black community, because like I said, I just don't think that the black community, especially right now, take college universities too seriously. Too much in these groups, not the group chats, but the groups that I'm in, where they're basically coming at people for having a college education, talking about they're in debt, things of that nature. Like I got more money than you and I never went to school. Like basically I make more money than you and I'm less educated than you are. So
The
who's
thing
doing
about
something wrong?
But you got to also factor in, Morphine, that the internet is full of a lot of extra faces in the crowd. You know what I mean? People that wear the mask because they get to pretend they're Jesus' little brother. You know what I mean? They get to get online and say they Jesus' little brother and
Yeah,
be
I
like, "Oh,
mean, I get
you
it.
don't believe me? You don't believe me?" You know. So
I get it.
a
I get it. I
lot of
just want to. I'm gonna speak for him though. I'm playing devil's advocate for them.
okay. I got some media too that I wanted to play too. I wanted to cut the monotony a little. Let me see.
I gotta introduce Miss Fields.
Welcome, Miss Fields.
Oh,
Welcome to the
yes.
stage.
My bad.
I'm
My bad. My
sorry.
bad.
Sorry, I was late.
I got you. Don't worry.
What is affirmative action and do you support it?
Isn't it like the process of like bringing diversity by like including others, like people of color, and allowing them to get equal opportunity for like this white people?
Yeah, that's pretty solid.
So affirmative action is essentially like the policy of recognizing that people of different backgrounds and like socioeconomic statuses have like significant disadvantages when trying to like apply to universities, and I definitely support it.
Yeah, I definitely support it as well. And I feel like I had a lot of privileges like throughout high school, like taking SAT classes and stuff like that, that really gave me advantages when I was applying to college. And I feel like people that don't have access to that should like have an advantage in that admissions process in order to make up for those disadvantages that have been working against them their whole life.
Being Native American and Hispanic, I would say so. I think it has helped a lot of my family members in ways that, in the way of giving them opportunities that they may have not otherwise been able to get. So I do think that it can help a lot of people, seeing systemic racism being as prevalent as it is in America.
To have these resources that other people have just because of the color of their skin or their gender or their sexuality or sexual orientation, but it's just more opportunity for them because they are discriminated against.
Yeah, like to include more people who deserve to be included in the school system, and I definitely support it. I don't think people should just be accepted into a school because they have privilege. I think everyone should have a shot, and I think it's a very good thing, an important thing to include everyone.
I think that it's incredibly important, especially on college campuses, because, you know, it allows people different opportunities that they might not have had in the past. I think especially now it's incredibly important, especially with this Supreme Court case.
I totally agree. I think affirmative action is important for not just minorities as a whole, but especially specifically Black people. And I completely support it.
I agree with all that, and I think it's a means of leveling the playing field, and I absolutely support it.
Folks deserve an equitable opportunity, and if that's the way which we have to do it right now because of the systems in place, then of course I support it.
All right. So what stood out to you guys?
Damn, they got the chick in the wheelchair.
Of course, with a bunch of rainbows on it. Yeah, yeah. The word deserve, and in general, appropriate implementation. Like they're talking about college admissions. Why are we implementing at that level?
And that was the court case that essentially got it overturned. Yeah.
Yeah, I know, because it's wild. Because why are you implementing at that place? Because he was talking about I have certain privileges from the schools I went to in the area that I lived in the community that my parents
right.
Right. This is where all the privileges are coming from. And now, you know, because of all that wonderful, you know, atmosphere and trickle down area, and that ended up with all the access to the privileges that I have. But we're going to intervene at the college level as opposed to the actual community that the individual came from, that didn't allow them the privileges and the access, and it's just a misappropriation.
You know what this reminded me of?
A lot of things started at the college though versus the community.
But
a lot of things, a lot of politics.
But for me, what this echoed to me was like how in 2024 there's still people that think everybody in Africa is starving and got flies on their eyes and big old bellies and stuff. it's like what he mentioned, the dude that says, oh, I have all of this privilege and all that. It's like he has this notion that every single black person that is in America lives in the ghetto, lives in the hood, has no access to any education, has no access to clean water, food, Ferguson. You know what I mean? It's like if we're not playing football or basketball, we go to prison, you know?
Yeah, I mean,
you know what I mean? It's like all the black women are just all baby moms on the welfare queens. Just like that's how it came off to me. Just like how people think like,
how do you not come to that conclusion unless you have a sense of white superiority? Explain to me how you can come to those assumptions that they don't state, of course. Right? These are internal social.
Even black people have those assumptions.
Hang on. I want him to get it out. Yeah, I want him to get it out.
Some internal assumptions that come out in the rhetoric that they speak, right? So they don't say everything that you just said, but they do say, I have privileges. It's not that it's wrong, but as opposed, like where you do have their privilege, are you assuming that these people that need affirmative action based off of race don't have it at all? Like not one? Are you also, stating that we should exclude those people that do have that privilege, even though their race matches the affirmative action that you're purporting? Right? It misses the nuance.
I forgot what I was gonna say now. Miss Fields, you got anything to say?
Not yet. I'm just catching up and listening to y'all.
Okay.
I'm here for educational purposes.
All right, I dig it. We got a comment popped up.
I always dislike that black folks are accepted by sports to be acceptable.
Yeah. Black people are not allowed to be engineers. Black people are not allowed to be lawyers or working in an office. You're supposed to be either
labor workers forever. Like we just labor workers forever. Like
a basketball superstar or a musician, or you could be
a rapper, right?
Rapper or something. Yeah.
Either you're an entertainer.
I remember what I was going to say now. I remember what I was going to say now. Because it was what you had said earlier about them having this notion of superiority.
Mm-hmm.
There's that, and then there's also good old fashioned inexperience, and the inexperience of just not being around enough black people to have a comprehensive understanding of our culture and of the many facets and nuances of the culture. If you're in an area where that's predominantly whom you are, whether that's an Asian community, whatever community, you're gonna be ingratiated in that so much to where the only ideas you can have of anything exterior comes from like media.
Yeah, agree.
So if every time and it goes back to you guys, I don't know if you remember Hollywood Shuffle, Keisha. I don't know if you, Morphine, if you old enough to know about Hollywood Shuffle.
I'm too young for that life. I'm too young for that life.
You remember it, Maurice? Hollywood Shuffle? I don't. Okay.
I got faint memories of it.
Okay, the movie was basically, in a nutshell, Robert Townsend basically saying, hey, why Hollywood, whenever you want to cast us, we have to be these pimps, these drug dealers and all. And and Robert Townsend's character and a bunch of the other black characters speak extremely eloquently and with such poise and you know what I mean? And they speak in such a way, and it's like they get these acting roles that have to be like, hey, brother man, yeah, Jack. And it's like they grew up, and it's like, dude, it's like I went to Juilliard, and he's like, he got to play a pimp in the movie. And the thing about
they got what they call boxing typecast.
Typecast, yeah. But the interesting thing about that is that movie was made, and for many years, the black community adhered to that message. Why we gotta always be the dope dealer? Why we gotta always be the pimp? Why we always gotta be the criminal? But what happened when Black people were allowed to make their own movies? What did we do when we got our own, when we were given budgets to make our own films? The most successful films that we make ourselves the dope dealer. We make ourselves the criminal. We make ourselves the gangbanger. We make ourselves. See, so it's like, what's going on?
Yeah, I'm gonna add to that. I completely agree with what you're saying, but the main question is like, you asking that question. I think it's the wrong question. The question is, why are you saying yes to these roles? Why are you saying yes to these roles?
For a paycheck to feed your family?
What else? Right,
No,
to
I
feed your
mean,
family. Like what else?
But
What else?
everything. Listen. Everything's gonna come down to a line of whether or not you're gonna choose to do this thing. And if it's something that you're doing that you don't like, you find a way out of it. This is like, you don't like working at UPS. I'm speaking from more personal experience here. If you don't like working at UPS, but you understand you have to work at UPS, that's all you got, right? Then you do what you do at UPS until you can get the hell out, right? That's not what's happening. These people fall into these roles or whatever, and they stay there, and they don't ever elevate out of it. So it goes right back to that question: why are you saying yes? You can say yes for now, but not forever. Your kid, I think. Yeah, you can say yes for now, but not forever. After I do 5, 6, 7, 8 years, whatever I gotta do in this space, I'm gonna do this for now. But I'm opening up my own studio because these crackers ain't gonna let me do what I need to do to be able to actually do what I need to do. Like, I'm all down for what Tyler Perry did. I'm down for it. There was another one that opened up something recently. Like, they're done with Hollywood. They're getting sick and tired of the culture and the unspoken rules that are happening in Hollywood.
People don't like how Black people don't like being painted in the truth that they live. Like, they just don't. They don't like to be painted in the truth that they are, or they live. I'm sorry, the truth that they live. And when we're talking about being included in something, is things that technically the majority of us ain't really included in. We're just not. We're not, and we're not even just talking about colleges and university. I mean, colleges and careers. When we're talking about TV shows, or we're talking about events in life that comes up on social media, like, a lot of us can't relate to that. And then when we talk about what we can relate to, and we are diverse in, is you're diverse in negatives.
Well, I mean, the question, it always comes down, like, here's the dilemma, really, in the simplest terms I can manage, is, hey, Whitey, you don't include us. We want to be a part of what the thing you're doing because we need to make a living too. Whitey puts us in. Hey, Whitey, you're putting us in the wrong spot. We don't like being where you've put us. Put us in better spots. And then Whitey goes and says, all right, we're gonna,
well, that's not a believable thing. And that, like you said, and then the thing about it is like, because I agree with what you're saying. I'm not negating what you're saying. I 100% agree with what you're saying. It's just at that time they were saying, well, these are what's believable. It isn't believable for us to make a show with Black doctors and the Black guy's the hero. Black man saves the world. No, that's not gonna. It's not gonna air in America. We're not gonna have a Black guy saves the world. Like and there's such negative stereotypes to us. Like, where's this Black guy from? Compton. Hey. You know what
well, right.
You know what I mean?
He's from the Bronx. He's from Queens. He's from D side. Like,
but my point is, at a certain point in time, the Black man's got to stop saying, "Hey, Whitey." Right? We've got to be like, all right. Now it's got to be, all right, Whitey. This is what it is. But you can only do that from a position of leverage. If you have an appropriate leverage in the area, you can say, all right, Whitey, this is what it is. You either with it or you're not. But instead of hey whitey,
do we really have to? If we start building our own economy, our own economical stance, do we have to honestly say, hey, whitey, exactly what you just said? If we already got our own HBUs, if we start building our own businesses, start hiring our own more, then would we have to?
The population in I can't remember the acronym you just said it. HBCUs. The population in them is actually tilting towards white. It's tilting towards white. So that tells you another thing, right? They're not sending their children to HBCUs. Black people,
no, they're not, because they want to be integrated. They want to be integrated with what they think is quote unquote success.
This goes back to another conversation I like to have is Black people in general. I mean, each person pretty much has to make their own choice, but Black people in general need to choose whether they're going to integrate or segregate. You can't do both. If
Absolutely
you integrate,
not.
Segregate, fine. That works too, but you got to pick one. Because if you're going to integrate, then integrate. Get used to saying, hey, whitey. That's fine. You're good. You know, you could be Samuel L. Jackson, Django Unchained. That's fine. He was happy. He was damn happy. If that's what you want to play, then play that role. Fine. But if you want to be Django, then it's a different road, and it comes with its own consequences. You can't pick both. You can't be both.
I would like to get on that topic. excuse me. Get on that topic a little bit with segregation and integration, and how it gave birth to a lot of affirmative actions, inclusions, because our ancestors was just not happy with. I ain't gonna say they wasn't happy. They was happy. They were very happy with making their own, building their own. But because it was a disparity amongst the Americas, when we build our own communities, them destroying them setting fires to them killing us for doing so, I think it created a DNA imprint in us all, that we just have to go towards another media or another source or another resource to get resources instead of going to our own, because we're afraid that that speaks danger when it comes to us in America. Like, I don't know how it would be today. I don't see a whole bunch of people in white hoods coming to destroy the Black community or any Black community that is being built. But I think the scarcity of it all is indebted in us, like just deep indebted in us.
Essentially, what you just said is it's an us problem. And we need to work it out. We need to hash it out. We need to figure it out. And that's a really involved process, which I don't think we have time for this show to be about.
You ain't. Oh God,
he's not lying. He's not lying.
Black economics to have that. Maybe that should be the next show. The next two shows coming up in the sequence, but that's something that we definitely need to talk about. Building Black economies, building the Black economy before we can talk about diversity and things of that nature, because
we can't build a Black economy until we get us to like each other first.
Well, I mean, I was going to
why we gotta like each other? Why we gotta like each other? We don't like the white man, but we diverse with that motherfucker. I'm sorry, you two.
We don't like each other.
No,
we don't like each other.
That's an issue of control, right? White man has the access to the things that we
right.
want. So it's an issue of control. It's not about willfulness, but to basically echo the things you said. There's no such thing as Black economics without Black families, and
right.
You can't build one without the other. You just can't. So it comes right down to the very major talking point in the internet right now is Black men and Black women and why they can't get along. That's
Right.
Well,
that's
yeah,
that's the linchpin.
that's like the
And
lid. Like
hey, check it out, check it out, check it out. We want to diversify and have equity and inclusion in relationships now too.
No. They ain't gonna
No,
fight that. Feminism too strong for all that. Sorry.
but that's a part of that's a part of it
That's a
because
part of feminism is equality, equality, and
well,
diversity. That's feminism right there.
right.
Not the
No,
misandry shit that's
no,
going
no,
around in the fourth wave. We just
that's the textbook. That's the
Yeah,
textbook
yeah.
definition. That's the textbook
That's the
definition.
marketing campaign.
Yeah, that's the textbook
No,
definition.
that's the old school
No, but
definition, and then you got the
but no,
new misandrous
but
fourth wave going
but let
wrong.
me
Yeah, I mean,
I'm trying to
they
get
ain't for
out. What
none
I'm
of
trying
y'all.
to get out is this whole men going their own way, and I'm gonna go get a white man and all of that type of stuff. That still that still goes against the building the hey, my kids being loud, I'm sorry. That goes against us building an economy for ourselves, because the at a fundamental level, the simplest way to create generational wealth or to create an economy, as you say, is marriage. And the Black community right now, because of feminism, it's become anti. Hang on, guys.
Yeah, go handle that.
Look at that
That's
face.
I saw the look on her face. Yo, she was done.
That
She was like,
yeah,
yo,
that face was like, I don't care
I don't
what
know
you
what's
doing,
going on
but
right
I
now,
need you.
daddy, but I need you right here, right now,
Okay.
handling this. That's what she said.
That part. I do agree with him that it does start with the family base as well. But as long as we keep having these little tit for tats of who does what, who holds the power, and all these other different conversations that's not really helping us economically, then we're gonna be on a growth stunt.
Now, when you say who holds the
Just
power, you're talking
in a
about
growth
general
stunt.
or in relationships.
Excuse me.
When you said who holds the power, were you talking about in general, or are you talking about in relationships?
In relationships, it's right now in the Black community is a big ass and it's a huge ass power struggle. But I do think that for us Americans as civilians, we don't understand power. So we are struggling for some shit we don't even understand. But that's just, again, another conversation for another day. But right now, what's going on right now is a great power struggle in how to move on as a couple in a modern day society, like using a little bit of traditionalisms and how to move on in a modern way. That's our struggle. I see the biggest struggle right now. How you diversify your relationship?
I think okay. I mean, do we really want to get into this relationship conversation?
I didn't get to finish my point because I was trying to wrap it up.
Go ahead, finish.
But no, I was saying that all that creates is a mindset of building wealth in a different way, because that's why a lot of the arguments I hear people say about these athletes and the very small minority and outliers of all Black men are going to do it because this athlete did it, that narrative. But what it does show is that it doesn't leave a legacy to his own family. Typically the money and everything goes to the wife, and if she is of a different nationality, the support goes there, and that creates a rift, and it enables us to create a solid community for ourselves, because the miscegenation creates an amalgamation of culture, and when you have miscegenation, amalgamation, you get annihilation. You know what I mean?
Spitting bars.
All right, okay, and then the
I'm
color.
gonna drop a beat for you later. Don't worry.
What happened? What happened?
I'm gonna drop a beat for you later. Don't worry.
right. Like, okay, a living color with the ism in the ism in it makes sense though. Like I ain't gonna lie, that was super logical. I'm gonna agree, but I'm gonna expound. I think that I'm gonna expound. There was a post talking about how white women hired black men more than black women hire black men. And then one of the ladies put out how uh white women hire black people in general more than black people. Like whether you had a black supervisor or a black female or male supervisor, you will most likely be hired by a white woman. Both of us, like you and I. So it was like a counsel out situation. But I was like, did y'all see what really happened here? The whole point of all this is neither one of us is hiring each other. You over here talking about what the white woman hired. Who gives a fuck? We ain't hiring each other. So
But
even if you had a black male that was hiring, he wouldn't hire you either.
I mean,
I saw that post, and did you see the one where there were two black guys? One was the interviewer, and one was the interviewee. And the guy that was being interviewed, they got like the little cloud above their head, what they're thinking. And the one that's being interviewed says, "Oh, great! I know I'm going to get this job. Somebody that looks like me." And then the interviewer got the little cloud and says, "Ain't no way I'm hiring him."
It can only be
And
one.
it's two black men.
I'm gonna expound a little bit more. It's another guy that I know from this sector, and he was boasting about being almost the only black guy and a black person in his neighborhood. He said, I could count on one hand, I'm sorry, how many black men in my neighborhood. He was proud about that. I was like, wow, I never thought I'd see today. That would be something to be, it's not something to be not proud of, but why would you be proud about that?
I can't completely understand that flex. It's a weird flex for me. Like, I'm the only black person in this neighborhood. That's a weird flex per se. I don't get it. But I think the phenomenon of black people not hiring their own stems a lot more in cultural issues.
They drank the Kool-Aid. Just say it. They drank the Kool-Aid. They believe the same thing that the other folks were saying about black people, that we lazy, we ain't no good, we gonna call off of work, we're not good workers. So he's not a good. I'm one of the good ones, boss. Don't bring him over here, boss. He's not one of the good ones like me, boss. See, boss, I'm the best ones that you ever. Right.
I mean, I'm not gonna
crabs in the barrel.
Okay, I'm not gonna say that doesn't exist. I think that'd be wild to say that never.
House Negro.
Right. But I think as well that because I've worked amongst several different populations of people, and sometimes these black people, man, they be doing too much at these job sites. They be taking things way too simply. They don't really be doing the jobs the way they were supposed to be doing it. Now, am I ever going to sit there and typecast it on black people? Like, I don't see other people doing that as well. Like, I've been able to mature my vision that I don't stick it to race, but I do stick it to a certain culture. And I can't ignore that culture doesn't exist predominantly in the black community. Right.
But that's the thing, though. It's like this whole conversation is about diversity and inclusion. And when we are put in positions of power to hire in this context of what we're talking about now, we don't hire ourselves and diversify the company with ourselves. But you see that in other races. You see the Latinos are hired the Latinos. The Asians are hired the Asians. You see what I mean?
Let me steal, man. Let's say you eventually end up in this position, right? And you have this power to hire people. You didn't end up there by accident. Let's clarify that right now. You had to work, grind, and arguably probably work twice as hard as your white counterpart to be able to get this position, right? Now you get to this position doing all the things you've done, and then you're staring across the table at another black person, and you're like, you're not doing enough. You didn't do what I did to get to this position or to get to the point where we can bring you on. I'm being charitable to the position that someone can actually be in. And if I don't find you to be at the standard and I bring you on, it's not only going to reflect on me as an employee, it reflects on me as a Black person here at this company. Like, because if there's two and one's acting up,
both of you, that's a problem. It affects
go
both
ahead,
of you.
Tim.
I
You
agree.
got that.
No, because what he's saying is true. One of us represents all of us. This is a cliche that rings true. But the thing, but in the way I had the analogy envisioned in my head was like, okay, I'm a janitor. I worked for 15 years as a janitor. I become the supervisor over maintenance and sanitation. And the only hiring power I have is to hire more janitors. So I'm gonna look at other men and say, "Oh, you ain't good enough to mop the floor. Come on."
Yeah, I wasn't looking at that scenario. That scenario sounds weird as hell to me.
Because you ain't mopped the floor like I had to mop the floor.
But that's not the
UPS.
I simplified it, but I simplified it, but basically what I'm saying is that when you're in a position of hiring, you're usually hiring people to be underneath where you are. You aren't looking across someone like, okay, I'm going to hire this person to be my equal. That's not what you're doing. So are we putting ourselves in a mindset to where I feel so high on the hog that I don't believe somebody else could just do what I did?
No, because I've been in position of hiring before.
I agree. Go ahead.
I've been in position of hiring before. I had to hire a team under myself.
Miss Fields been quiet. After you go, we're gonna give it to Miss Fields.
Yeah, I've been in a position where I've had to hire people, and I can tell you the pressure of choosing the right person is there, because you have this list of people and you're going through it and you're trying to figure out what are the best criteria to judge a person. We know everybody here has been through an interview. The amount of bullshit that you send across that table to the interviewer is insurmountable. So you're sitting there looking at the resume, looking at the application, looking at this person that's coming across the table for you, and you're trying to figure out if they're going to be good for the team that you're going to put them on under you. Now, once that actually happens, that person fucks up, they look at you and say, why did you hire this person? Right? There's a lot of pressure there. So it's not as simple as, again, I'm steel mailing and being charitable, right? I'm not saying that there's not people out there that you're like, all right, this is a Black dude, he ain't gonna be here. But there is that also, like, you know what? This person is not going to bring the amount of quality here. And if I can't show and prove, like, I could just hire this person because they're Black and be like, all right, I'm gonna support you, my peoples, bring them in. But if they're not at the level that they need to be able to actually reflect my own integrity, I've got to say no.
Well, I was just gonna add, like, I was an employer for 2 decades at Dollar Tree, AutoZone, Advanced Auto, Hess, a couple other places, and sometimes it also has to do with demographics. So, just for one example, there was one store I took over. It was in the hood, okay, and they had a whole bunch of white folks there working there. Now, I didn't get rid of the white folks, right? But I started to hire more Black people because I have to bring the face of the community into that store. And it actually works. It really does. Now, obviously, you have to hire, like Maurice said and Tim said, you still have to hire the right people. I mean, I had white girls with tattoos. I had a redneck with a long beard, and I had Black folks. I had one, everybody thought he was African because he was so damn dark. Like, a lady called, can I speak to the African dude? I'm like, he's from Atlanta, lady. But anyways, so sometimes it also has to do with demographics. Kind of like if, let's say, I took over another store and it was in a predominantly white area. If I put a whole bunch of Black folks in there, I'd probably lose business. That's true. And then, like, as an interviewer, you know, I ain't gonna lie, like, I checked social media, like, I did all that. Like, so if I'm going through your social media and I see you with blunts and and all this other stuff. I don't think I'm gonna call you. And I remember there was this one young lady, her name was Alize. And her name alone just threw me off. And for the longest time, I wouldn't call her in for an interview. And so one day I was like, let me call her in because she just keep calling. Let me call her, set up an interview. Well, Alize actually ended up acting just like Alize. Okay?
I thought she was gonna put a spin on that.
I don't like that. I don't like that because my name is considered a ghetto name, and they just think that all of us act like ratchet. Like I don't like that. Don't like that at all. But go ahead with the story.
But she
David,
did. She
have
acted
to
like
act like her name.
Alize. She acted like her mama drank too much Alize while she was in the womb or something, because it just didn't work. The interview lasted like 4 minutes, and I was like, okay, have a nice day. But again, it's just, going back to where we say, well, we don't hire one another. I know for myself, I don't care. I hired an autistic guy once, and this is to Maurice's point. I hired an autistic guy. I'll make it real quick, and I'll land my plane. His name was Danny. I'll never forget him. And I knew he couldn't do certain functions, so I hired him. Like, he had one of those caseworkers that was taking him for jobs. So I decided to give him a chance. And so he would do, like, fill the cooler, sweep the parking lot, stuff like that. And I never forget, one day my district manager came in there and she pulled me in the office and was like, well, why did you hire him? You know that he can't do such and such and such. And I was like, what are you talking about? I said, I know I can't put him on a cash register. I said, but he can probably fix my computer, because he had done so before. I was sitting there trying to figure something out. And here comes my autistic employee and says, oh, boss lady, I can fix that for you. And boom, 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 it was done. So, that goes back, like you said, to Maurice. Like, it's like, well, why did you hire this person? But that person actually ended up being a great employee. So again, like for me, I hire all kinds of people. I don't care. As long as you're appropriate, you can do the job, you come to work, you're hired. But now I ain't gonna lie, some of my people done let me down real bad. Where like, for example, Dollar Tree don't do no background checks. And in the interview, they'll tell me, I got a record. And I'm like, you know what? It's all right. You need a chance. I can, give it a try. And sure enough, those were the ones. Oh, boss lady, I can't come to work today. I gotta leave early, or just quit on you like the day of their shift. Like, oh, I quit. What? So I'm not saying it's all of us, but quite a few of us, yeah, they did. And that's what a lot of times leaves a bad taste in people's mouths. Like, oh, he just gonna be like the last one. She gonna be like the last one. So that was all I had to add, only because we were talking about actual hiring processes, and I did it for 2 decades.
I want to ask Dedrick a question, if after y'all introduce him officially, obviously.
Oh yeah, let's introduce Dedrick officially. Welcome, Dedrick, to the stage. The wonderful Dedrick from Soul Conversations, or is it Soul Flow Conversations? I don't got me and Tim don't got our sound effects right now.
Big it up to it.
Welcome to the stage, brother. Glad to have you here. This mug.
The trombone.
He got his sound card working today, you guys. You can't tell Tim nothing, okay? But welcome. We want your input about something. Maurice, ask the question, brother. Ask the question.
Yeah, the question I ask, since we're on this topic of whether or not we employ our own or not. You being a businessman, I'm sure at some point in time along your path here, you were looking for partners to partner up with. I'm making an assumption, but usually if you go into business, you're looking for some type of partner at some point in time, whether it be in the beginning or towards the middle or something, or even just the prospect or the idea of finding a partner. And if I had to continue to arrogantly assume, you probably didn't find anybody that met an appropriate criteria to be a partner. And if you did, the likelihood that they would actually want to come on board was probably pretty low. Now, I made a lot of assumptions. You can definitely correct what you feel like you need to correct. You heard me?
You with us?
I have been approached about partnering. They were good, all good people, and 99% of them were black, and they were astute black people who also had other things going on with themselves, stuff like that. I think for me, when it comes to partnering with someone, I need to, I mean, I have to assess what their successes has been first and foremost. But I have met, a good handful and a half of individuals who, they seen the potential of my business and they want to be a part of it because they believe in it. They listen to my story, they listen to what my goals are, they listen to what my vision is, and they like what I'm doing and where I'm trying to go, and they want to be a part of that journey. So for me, I don't have a problem with that. I just don't want inconsistent people. I just don't want people because ultimately I have to surround myself with the thought that outthinks me, which means I have to surround myself with people who are smarter than me, people who are more successful than I am, or people who have specialized knowledge that I don't have, which is fine. But I have to see what it is that they have to offer. That would be a benefit to me and my business and the growth of my business.
So would you say I was pretty accurate in my assumptions?
Did that answer your question?
I don't know. I'm trying to figure out because you didn't really address each point, so you kind of went off. I mean, do you have a partner now, or are you solo?
Well, no, I can't say it was pretty low. Well, no, I have a partner. I still don't have a partner right now.
And you did state some of the reasons why you qualified some of them out, but the majority of them, could you draw like a golden thread through the reasons why you decided to X them out? Tim, you're gonna have to cut that music, man.
I guess I'm trying to figure out what exactly are you asking?
I was just trying to figure out if you obviously have a criteria to what you would want.
Hear me?
You're cutting in and out, so I guess it's tough to hear you. Yeah, you are frozen now.
Yeah, we can't hear you at all now.
He's struggling over there, man. Struggles to in bed.
Dedrick, give us a mic check.
Could you?
Oh well, that answers our question.
Could y'all hear me at all?
We can hear you now.
And everybody's frozen.
We can hear you.
I'm gonna.
And we can see you.
He's probably delayed. So he's probably like responding to something we said earlier.
Okay. Right? Understandable. I know Tim looks for. Oh no, Tim ain't frozen. He just super still. We don't like that. Tim, don't be doing the frozen face. While we are waiting, Tim, can you cue a video?
Maybe.
Don't give me no maybe, sir. You cue a video. I'm gonna cue.
So the Supreme Court's about to rule on affirmative action for the millionth time, and I've been seeing a lot of videos, especially from Black creators, talking about how they had a really high SAT score, really high GPA, and they were super qualified in every way to get into their university. And though I agree and think those experiences are super valid and important in this conversation, I think it's kind of missing the mark on how affirmative action really works and why it exists. So affirmative action as it currently stands is really just a holistic review, meaning every applicant, regardless of their skin color, is getting looked at as a full person. That means they're looking at things other than just your GPA or your SAT scores to determine if you would be a good fit or would be successful at their school. And one of the biggest ways they make that determination is by looking at different hardships that people have overcome. And for Black people, unfortunately, in America, a lot of our hardships are tied deeply into our race. A lot of students are coming from backgrounds where they went to segregated schools.
All right, this video longer than I wanted to be.
Okay.
But y'all get the gist of what she's saying. Though. Let me see if there's something short and sweet that's to the point. Oh, here we go.
CEO.
Bad for Black people. Affirmative action has harmed Black people because here's the problem, and I'm going to tell you exactly what happened. So Thomas Sowell was an adjunct professor at Cornell University, and he was teaching, and he learned that something like 25% of all of the Black kids were on academic probation. So he went to go investigate. Why are all the Black kids on academic probation? Well, it turns out all of those Black kids were let in based on affirmative action, meaning, and he said, by the way, these were the top tier Black kids in America. If they had actually got into a school, maybe they went to UNC instead of going to Cornell, they would have been at the top of their class. But because they mismatched and they put them into a class that was slightly higher and they weren't able to compete at the level of everyone in that class, they were then at the bottom. It doesn't help those kids to finish at the bottom of Cornell rather than finish at the top of another school. They could have been at the top of another school if they just were matched into the correct universities.
Yeah,
it hurts Black Americans.
I'm disagreeing with that data, but with that interpretation of data. But I'm also.
But it's true. They're more likely to drop out, and they're finishing at the bottom of their classes. You can't just put a kid into Harvard because they're Black. They're going to have to compete at that level.
She say anything wrong?
Actually,
go ahead.
Actually, I was just going to say, when she said that, she makes a really good point. So, for example, remember, I don't know, back in the back chat, in the beginning of the school year, I told y'all they put William in all honors classes, right? And it was really creeping me out. I didn't think that he was going to be able to perform. Not that I think he's stupid, just that it's an honors class, that there's going to be more expectations of him. And he's been struggling in the honors class. So Billy was talking to me and said, well, maybe we should take him out the honors classes because I'd rather him do well in regular classes than come in at the bottom or struggle in honors class. I know it's not the same thing, but it's comparable. That does kind of make sense.
No, yeah, I mean, I agree with that. I would add to it, but before I add to it, I'd say that first lady that spoke, not only was she false, she made all that shit up. Like, she just made a bunch of shit up and decided to say it out loud and stuff. So
And her sweater wasn't all right.
Well, go ahead, Maurice. Can you elaborate? Or I think you just can't make a statement. Can you elaborate on that?
Elaborate on what? She made it up.
Why is
elaborate? She made up a bunch of nonsense of the reasoning why affirmative action exists. How am I supposed to elaborate on the fact that she just made it up? None of that was true. Completely false. False. And
I'll say this. Let me come on camera and say this. I don't know what to say about that. That's a little outside my expertise, but I say this. Any person that talked that damn fast,
she lying.
Wasn't used to being heard. Like real shit. Like anyone that talked that fast is not used to being heard. That I'm just in that there because I hate when people. Why can you slow down? Like breathe in between words. Jesus.
Yeah, to add to what Mrs. Fields was saying earlier about AP classes and whether to put your child in that class, the one thing you got to keep in the back of your head is the area of optimal growth is at the end of your competency, right? Right at the edge of your competency is the area of your optimal growth. So it's always hard to figure out how to calibrate that, right? So you're always trying to figure out what is this child really capable of? and then we got to push them just a little bit more into that area of growth. But yeah, so whether or not, maybe 2 AP classes instead of all 4, right? That way he's pushing, he's uncomfortable enough to grow. That's the
I
best
don't
way.
like her.
You don't like
Oh, no,
Pope?
I don't
I
like her.
definitely agree.
I don't like
We
nothing she
kept
got to
it.
say about black people.
Nobody asked. No offense.
No, like I said, I was just
I don't
making
know
a
what.
comparison to what she said, that I can see if we place people in a position that they're not exactly qualified for, they end up falling on their faces. Now, some of them may go ahead and thrive and push themselves, and they may make it to the top, like, because they're just determined to do so. But a lot of people would probably feel they're like fold under the pressure, if that makes sense.
It's sink or swim is what it is. They drop them into these PWIs, Harvard, Ivy Leagues, or whatever. And it's essentially sink or swim for them. And when we get shocked when most of them sink. Well,
Dedrick, do you have any input? How was your audio?
you can't hear. You got.
You're on mute.
Yeah, you got.
Get it together, Dedrick.
I switched laptops altogether, so hopefully this is better.
That's a whole lot better.
It's much better. You look clearer and everything. Like,
So I didn't
4K right now.
Looking pretty.
Look at that. Look at that. Looking
but okay, so in regards to the affirmative action stuff, and listen, to Miss Fields, to Jessica's point, when they were talking about whether they should shift him back to regular classes where he can actually excel, because if he's struggling in honors classes, say for instance, there's something there. Now I understand what Maurice was trying to say about pushing someone to the limit to where they push a little harder to excel a little bit, to push themselves to grow and all that good stuff. But you have to also understand and recognize the limitations of the student. You can't force a student to be what they aren't. That's one of the biggest things that people can't do, especially when it comes to parents. You want to see your kid be this extraordinarily cerebral child, but if your child ain't, he just ain't. That doesn't mean he's stupid. It just means he's not at that particular optimal level. So you need to give that child the strength at the level that they actually are. But when you push these students and you just go on ahead and do it just because of their color, their race and everything, that's not going to work. It works for some because some people do need the help. However, I don't think it's fair overall to just assume that, okay, we can just keep pushing this child to Harvard level standards and think that child is going to excel. That child didn't have Harvard level preparation, and stuff like that. So you can't do that without actually assessing the child or the student. It's just not smart to do, and that's why a lot of them fall. A lot of them don't fall because they're not competent. They fall because they've been placed in a situation where they were not prepared for. They're intelligent enough to function on the level of competency that they're supposed to, but when you put them higher than they're supposed to just because of their race, or you trying to fill a quota or something like that, I don't think it's going to be good for the child. I don't think it's going to be good for the student, because now they've ultimately failed because they've been placed in a level of performance that they're not prepared for that level. So they have to be careful when they're doing that. And then for those individuals who do qualify for it, that child has now taken the place of that person who should have been there. So you have to be very, very careful when you're doing that, because it's a double-edged sword.
I think that was one of the biggest arguments that you just pointed out, where another student that was actually qualified to get into that school, the administrator's like, wait, nope, we got this one right here. He's African American, or he's this, or he's that. Got to put this one in so we can meet our quota. So you know what? Sorry, such and such from wherever, we can't accept you because we got to accept this person
Yeah, the actual
in the face of equality.
Yeah, the actual court case was presented from the Asian American community. The Asian Americans were excelling beyond any other person, and the seats, essentially the positions or the seats, were limited to them because there was people that that should have been in there that didn't get a spot, a place to be able to learn and grow, and they were more than qualified to be there.
Yeah, but I've seen quite a few, like I remember there's been a few videos I saw, like how they do school over in, China, Asia, all those places over there. And they're actually prepared for those things though. Like their school, like I wish I could, I almost moved to China, okay? Like just so I could put my kids in their school because they are awesome. And they prepare their children not only with life skills, but then I think first through fifth grade, they don't even get testing. They don't get grades. They're learning life skills, and then once they leave elementary school and go, I don't know if they call it middle school, how it works, but that's when they start to learn, more things, and that's when they actually start to get tested and get prepared. So their school system actually prepares them very well to have the qualifications for those spots. So I don't know.
In addition to what Jessica said, I saw that very report on them. They even said that they don't even have janitors like that. All of the kids are expected to fill that void, meaning they're expected to clean up after themselves. They're expected to be nice. They build character. They build integrity. And that's one of the biggest reasons why when the kids will come over here, the whole lot is placed on them because they represent a nation. They represent a people. They represent that whole race, that whole particular family, and it's a point of pride that child excels. They are expected to do it, and they push each other as children. They push each other. They hold each other accountable. So it's a whole different mindset for them over there, and the majority of them succeed at a very, very high level because the expectations are placed on them at a very, very young age, and it stays on them. It doesn't go away.
Now, you got to be careful now, not to discredit what you were saying, because I think a majority of it's accurate. But we got to make sure we don't conflate China with Japan, because I think a lot of the things you were saying is Japanese, where what Miss Fields was saying was talk about China. And we also have to remember Japan. I can't remember exactly, but I'm pretty sure they have the highest rate of suicide in Japan.
I don't think I mentioned Japan.
Before
Well,
y'all continue,
as far as the aspect of them cleaning up after each other, there's no janitors. That's Japan. That's not China.
before y'all continue, I have to get off this live. I'm sorry, viewers and everybody on the panel. I'm sorry. I got it in my portion of it early. I'm gonna leave it up to my co-host to wrap up our last little. We only got 20 minutes of the show left anyway. 15 minutes. I'm sorry. We only got 15 minutes of the show left anyway. So I'm gonna leave it to my co-host to wrap it up. Thank you guys for joining. Thank you guys for watching. This is Morphine signing out till next Monday. Timothy, don't forget to tell the viewers what our next show is about. All right.
Oh, I gotta let me see. Yeah, because I'll be like, all right then, y'all.
Right, like don't forget that part. All right, but deuces, y'all. Love y'all. Bye.
All right, all right.
Gotta
All
go
right. So
in.
yeah, it's an hour and 40 in. Sadly, I hate to say when we cover a topic that's actually something that has some social importance, it makes me sad that the numbers, the viewer numbers are a lot lower versus when we talk about ooh child, and that's you get hundreds of views when you on that. It makes me, you know what I mean? It's tough, right? So with that being said, everybody go ahead and throw your advertisements out. Let everybody know where they can find you and what you got going on.
Want me to go first?
Go ahead.
All right. There you go. That's me. All right. Yeah. So you can come check me out on YouTube at if you're not listening to this, you're watching it. You could spell it just like it is by my name. It's Maxi Studio Music. That's lowercase m, lowercase a, capital X, lowercase s, lowercase I, Studio Music. Come check me out. Got some new songs on there. Let me know what you think. You do the YouTube thing, like, share, subscribe. You know how to do it.
All right. Mr. Dedrick.
What is going on here? I was messing with you. If you've noticed, my name is Dedrick the Cookie Man, but you can reach me on Instagram actually at Mr. Craves Cookies for some of the best cookies you ever tasted in your whole life. In your whole life, best cookies ever. So also you can find us on Soul Flow Conversations. That is also a group on Facebook. We are going to be coming to YouTube soon and everything. But in the meantime, we are here on every Thursday, 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Check us out. And you can go to Dedrick Brockington Sr. on Facebook to find the live cast and whatnot. So thank you. Once again, it's Mr. Craves Cookies, where it's a party in your mouth. Thank you so much.
And Mrs. Fields.
All I got is ducks. I just got ducks. And no, come check us out on Soul Flow Conversations. I am Desert's co-host every Thursday, 8:30 p.m. Eastern, like he said. We really cover some good topics, some fun topics, real topics. So definitely come and check us out.
Yes. I'm gonna wrap it up. You guys stay back here in the backstage. I want to talk about something real quick. Let me go ahead and because this is the stuff she normally do. So let me go ahead and find what I'm supposed to do. All right. And oh wait, next show, I almost forgot. It's gonna be one of the good old times we're gonna have the views up high and all of that, because there is a list that a magazine put out from the 1950s of 129 ways to find a husband.
Lord.
And we want to go through this list line by line and see what's applicable now, what needs to get thrown out the window, what can be adjusted. Just have fun and have a good old time.
129.
Oh yeah.
129 ways.
You better get on your game.
Huh?
I was saying she better get on her game. 129.
Right. Remember, this is from the 1950s, so ain't no telling what's on there. It might say show your ankles or something. All right. Until the next episode, everybody. You guys hang in right here.